Good evening, this is the Oscar expert here with Brother Bro, and it's time to review One Battle After Another. This is the newest film from Paul Thomas Anderson, who of course is one of our generation's best filmmakers. This is about a dad whose history of involvement with a radical leftist group called the French 75 puts him and his daughter in imminent danger. In this review, we're gonna dive in and out of deeper analysis, some of which you might not want to hear if you haven't seen the movie yet and you don't like the analysis being analyzed before you see it. But the movie's been out for a day or two, and I think this review will have better longevity anyway by just going right into the analysis. So just know that before watching it. But if you don't want to watch it, just know that we're recommending this film on the highest level. It is a must-see, and it is spectacular. This movie knocked me on my ass for the entire runtime. And this is a 2-hour and 45-minute film, right? I mean, it absolutely flew by. It was completely riveting. Just from the standpoint of a thriller or action film, this is one of the very best I have ever seen. And I think it achieves that not just through its propulsive filmmaking and editing and just stunning direction, but the intrigue of the subject matter and the tour of modern authoritarian America that this film hurtles you through. And also the characters, the many fascinating elements of this ensemble, and the sheer originality of this tale. I really feel like I have never seen a film like this, especially set in the modern day. I have too many amazing things to say about this, so I gotta take it back a little bit. I gotta break it down point by point, but what did you think? You've seen it twice. The first time I wasn't quite sure if this lived up to the hype, and on the second viewing, I think it absolutely did. PTA is really aiming for a crowd pleaser here. And in some aspects, I wondered, is this film just a bit too clean for maybe what I would expect from PTA? But when I went back on a second viewing, I reassessed and I said, what is it that I love about a good PTA film? And I think it's the characters. I think it's how these characters whose flaws are just deeply evident clash with each other and challenge each other. And I found that in every scene of this movie. And so I really can't say anything bad about it. And just on the level of a thrill ride as an event film, this is one of the most propulsively entertaining and consistently engaging films I've seen in a long time. It delivers on so many different genres. It's a stoner comedy, an action thriller, a crime saga epic. And the blending of all these genres just feels so effortless. It really feels like we are just locked in with these characters. And the story never feels like you know where it's going. It doesn't feel like you're in familiar territory. It doesn't feel like, I kind of see this piece coming. I really feel like the final cut of this film is perfection. Just from an editing standpoint, this is an absolutely perfect edit. Every second of this film is feeding you the right information as an audience member about the characters, the locations, the environments. It always felt like something new was beginning and something new was unfolding. Whenever you're spending time with a new character, you're utterly captivated by them. And if anything, I would have loved more time with some of these characters, especially Teyana Taylor's, who dominates the first 20 minutes or so of this film, really leaves her mark. And I think she's an incredible actress. If you haven't seen 1001, I'd highly recommend that film just to see what she is truly capable of in a lead role. It's just I want more riches from those characters. I would have loved to see more Regina Hall, more Benicio del Toro. I don't really hold it against the film. I give credit to the film that these characters who could have felt like just supporting members of a cast feel fully fleshed out, and I'm very curious about who they are. And I think there is enough little hints about where they come from that they kind of light up the screen in this way. Even this dumbass, hateful, bigoted character that Sean Penn plays, his psychology is quite interesting to dissect. Every character seems motivated through forces beyond their own control that come from within, their deepest flaws. Even Sean Penn, it's maybe not even necessarily that he has a hatred for non-white people, it's that he's so insecure and he wants belonging. And DiCaprio, it's maybe not even that he's so righteous and just to be part of the French 75, it's that Teyana Taylor is giving him a lot of sexual attention for doing all this stuff. I think you can pick up on these dynamics a lot more in a second viewing, and even Benicio del Toro and DiCaprio's character, even when it seems like they're kind of just having fun with these two, really exploring this dynamic between this character who's calm and collected, who's right in the middle of the fight, but he's ready to go and he's level-headed, versus DiCaprio's manic, paranoid state of mind. That is the tension between those scenes. It's really there wherever you want to look for it. I think that's why this film is masterful. And I also think for a film that is mainly taking the perspective of the white character, through a story which is really about the collective efforts of people of color and their solidarity and coming together to fight the forces that threaten their existence and not the existence of the white character. But making DiCaprio into this hero who's not exactly a hero when you think about it, but just someone who is trying their best and actually is being saved by those around him more often than he is saving others. Like, there's something really interesting there where it spins that archetype of the white savior. And I really feel like what sticks with you is the people surrounding him, especially the black women, and what they give to the cause and how he is really trying to be on that level. Like, he's trying to do justice to it. The role of a white person in this sort of movement is not to save the day. It is actually to help protect and to be like one piece of a larger puzzle. And I think white men are kind of conditioned with the idea that they're going to be a savior or like they can step in and like fix a problem. But the very nature of the movement that Paul Thomas Anderson writes is decentralized, something with no figureheads, therefore making it all the more resilient. But certainly the film does celebrate DiCaprio's dedication as a parent, which is something that Teyana Taylor's character couldn't quite give to their daughter. And in that way, the movie is also a film about the necessity for passing on the fight to the next generation. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the film touches on DiCaprio's inability to sort of understand the new generation or find his way into that. And it also touches on the natural process of a father becoming a bit more fearful or a bit more conservative minded given just the stakes of having a child. And it views the generational passing of the torch as necessary as the fight itself is eternal and goes back as far as America's been around and is continuing. There's a great visual metaphor in the final action sequence. The way that the camera compresses the rolling hills, you can put that together with the title of the film and find a really cool visual metaphor, something I feel like I haven't seen before, especially in the middle of an action sequence. The arc of our protagonist is that he lets go of protecting his daughter. I mean, in the way that freaking Marlin does in Finding Nemo, you know, very, very universal. But in this case, it liberates his own fears because DiCaprio, we find, is really living a life of paranoia and passive fear. The film's thesis statement, said by Benicio del Toro, is that freedom means no fear. Yeah, I feel like there's a really difficult reality at the center of this film, which is like, for everyone to have freedom, you have to sacrifice your safety sometimes. And that's very foreign to me. Like, I have never had to sacrifice my safety. And like, for me, it would always be a choice to do that. Like, if my default state is like, I am not in danger. I feel like the film really does challenge the audience in that way to like get them to accept that, hey, when safety is being threatened, the only answer is to further sacrifice safety in the pursuit of justice and freedom. Like, it's a really tricky situation for individuals to be in, but you know, nonetheless, like it's part of the world. Like, it's the battle that has to be fought. And it seems like if you don't fight that battle, thinking about our world as it is right now, fear is kind of this weapon to make people complacent. And to continue on just how relevant this movie feels to today, it's kind of amazing how this movie was shot and written and all that last year, and what's going on this year with the ICE raids and the way that the military is being deployed domestically. I was really like amazed and moved in watching how the ICE raids, and they're not explicitly ICE in this film, but essentially like raiding establishments where people are just working, was portrayed as like the main evil in this film, the main way that these like white supremacist forces are acting upon our society. For those who may not be in that mindset that ICE is like an arm of white supremacy, I would just encourage you to ponder the fact that like ICE raids Home Depots. ICE picks people up at the courthouse who are trying to go through the system in order to gain citizenship. Like, it cannot be said for ICE that their motive is to stop crime, and it cannot be said that their motive is to stop drugs. It is the perception that that in itself is a threat, is that having illegal people here, specifically Black Latino people here from other countries, is a threat in itself. I found it interesting the way the white supremacists were portrayed here, because we're typically used to seeing these racist archetypes in films where segregation or slavery were currently ongoing, and these racist white characters are just seething with rage and hatred at Black people or at whatever minority it is. And while that's not like unwarranted to have that character exist, I feel like that archetype in a way is harmful because it can obscure what actual racism looks like And in this film, I feel like these sweater vest clad, wealthy golfer looking guys who are speaking in like these pseudo intellectual terms about purity and about entitlement is actually where like more of the core of racism is thriving right now. We're in a world where dog whistling is like the mode in which racism has to be propagated. Like you cannot just go out there and say like, I do not like that the country is brown, but you can absolutely say that in like slightly coded and dog whistly language. The rhetoric about immigrants being about like purification. Like I do hear this in like modern speeches about white replacement, like taking our country back and like hearkening back to like, well, our, you know, the Western tradition is building things and building a society, and then it's ripping it down to have like immigration. This kind of language that's where white supremacy is in the modern day, and that's what it sounds like and looks like. And I feel like Paul Thomas Anderson had an ear out for that, you know, making this lockjaw character like just some very vulnerable and insecure man who is drawn to this ideology purely because someone is telling him that his race makes him pure and makes him worthy of something. Like the way he gets into that corner office and is like, like this is my American dream, is just to be like have a little bit of power, and he gets to have friends
to
be
respected.
It's very sad. And I also feel like the theme of blood as like whether that defines you or not was very carefully woven in the film, because there's an obvious way in which like the white supremacists value bloodlines, and they believe that, hey, if you have like the right blood, if you have that pure European blood in you, then that's what matters and that's what gives you merit. But really, I think what Paul Thomas Anderson says with the story about, you know, a white father and a child who's worried about becoming her mother, who didn't exactly leave behind the best legacy. It's about the choices we make, like whether we're going to choose to be on this side or fight this battle. Like it is really nothing to do with what is inside of us or our blood.
Well, it's also that DiCaprio, I think, is trying to protect his daughter from the failings of him and his mother, who were both failed as revolutionaries, but also on some level as parents. And at the end, I think he's embracing that he can't protect her from those things. Who she becomes is completely unknown. She may herself become a flawed figure like her parents in some way, but it's still necessary for him to let her go. It's a kind of a universal parenting thing, but also ties into those themes.
Yeah, on that note, I found the father-daughter story to just be very moving. When you give me a little moment of that in the end, I just get a little tears in my eyes.
I agree. It was a really sweet moment at the end. And I love Johnny Greenwood's melody that he uses for these two devices coming together, and how that becomes like the father-daughter connecting story there. I freaking love Johnny Greenwood's score in this movie. I love that during all the action sequences, it sounds just as clumsy as our lead character. It's kind of tripping over itself. It kind of has this janky propulsivity to it with the percussion.
Yeah, the score really took me through this film and like smoothed out the edit. And it almost feels like the film is one hazy montage because it just moves so fast. It kind of reminded me of Oppenheimer in that sense. And the way Johnny Greenwood's score takes you through all of that, I feel like it was absolutely necessary for this film, like to just be kind of grooving in the rhythm of that this film wants to take you in, and just made it feel exciting and tense.
It is a fast-paced movie, but it also really breathes. You're able to soak in certain shots for a long time and characters' faces. I love Paul Thomas Anderson's close-ups here because he really knows when the action of the story and the information is best conveyed in the details of an actor's face.
I also think there's something to be said here for the way Paul Thomas Anderson portrays the surveillance state, because though it's kind of invisible to us because this is our world, and like, of course there's cameras everywhere, of course like the police and the government have the ability to like track our phones and like know exactly where we are, but when it comes to being in opposition to that government and them yielding that power against us, the characters have to make a lot of decisions, and like they have to get around the surveillance state in many ways. They have to have like not have cell phones, or be thinking about like ways to use technology that is like off the market. It's this really amazing thing where we don't think about it because it's just the water we're swimming in at this point. We're not even like having this debate about whether the US should go in this direction. Like we're just there. But the film kind of illuminated that in the sense that like, hey, if we had to fight the state for whatever reason, it would be extremely difficult because this infrastructure is in place. And Paul Thomas Anderson's in his script was really thoughtful about how characters have to communicate and how it has to be like off the grid entirely. They have to use coded language that doesn't exist. There's no manual online. And like you're witnessing all of these ideas in the fabric of the story. I mean, maybe that's just why I found it so exciting, because it felt like every moment was just packed with thoughtful details about how this world works.
And then speaking of the details of how the world works, I want to shout out the production design here, because there was careful attention paid to make sure that the sets felt grounded and everyday. Like Benicio del Toro's apartment felt very lived in, and a lot of the lighting in some of these scenes, it seems very practically lit, like in the bodegas and everything. It feels like we are wandering the world as it is. I mean, even with the casting of the extras, they just felt very everyday. It felt like they weren't actors.
But the way the camera like really just moves you through, often in like single takes, through these environments, like these underground tunnels, essentially, doors in the ceiling and in the floor, like it was really stunning.
It felt like Paul Thomas Anderson has not watched an action movie in the past 25 years. And I say this as a major compliment. This is a big blockbuster event film that has no visual effects in sight. And the car chases feel like they're right out of like a French Connection or something from the 70s or 80s, or like a Western. It just felt like old school movie making without any kind of fetishization of the past. It was just like, this is how you do it, folks. The film feels much more tactile and real than pretty much anything with a budget like this that I've seen in a long time.
Yeah. And again, I think it can't be understated that the reason I cared during the action scenes was because I fucking cared about the characters. Like, I can't tell you how many action films I just don't like because I don't care about action in itself. It just doesn't entertain me. But this one, it was a total exception. Like, I really loved every minute of it, even when it was just pure thrills and action. That last set piece in the desert, like, made me physically queasy. And I was like, wow, I've never felt this sensation in a movie before, especially seeing it in IMAX 70mm, where the frame is more like boxy and you get a lot of vertical space. Just an amazing way to see this film. The performances, the performances in these films are just always like fantastic. Whether it's like the store clerk or the lead DiCaprio performance.
I also feel like this capped off a recent trend of PTA's films being about characters who are just kind of clumsily making their way through the world, be it like Licorice Pizza or Inherent Vice, not really knowing what's next, what's around the bend for them. It's kind of a minor miracle how he's made a slacker film feel like such an urgent political film and a call to action at the same time.
So, I could keep going on about how much I loved this film. For me, there's actually no film this year that really compares. This movie is a 10 out of 10, probably the #1 film I will see this year.
I think this is a 10 out of 10. Not going to differ from everybody else on here. I thought I was going to the first viewing. I thought, this is just going to be one where like the hype's a little over my head, but second viewing, absolutely not. Let's talk about the Oscars, okay? How does this not win Best Picture, right? I feel like I've never been more confident about something in September, but I gotta say, the hype on this one is Parasite level, in the sense that there's just a union in the film community around this movie is like the best of the year. It's 5 stars. Like, it's not even that hard.
What does this film not have going for it? Like, it doesn't capitulate to non-left people? Like, that's the only thing I could possibly see.
It's the most crowd pleaser movie you could imagine for Paul Thomas Anderson. I've thought many times, what would Paul Thomas Anderson need to do to get an Oscar? And it's like, I feel like he would never really make that big of a crowd pleaser that's also like a really good movie. Well, he fucking did that. It has applause moments where people are like, yes, this person was like helping them, yes. And at the end, it's like feel good, and it ends on this like upbeat rock song. You couldn't have imagined Paul Thomas Anderson making a movie that's more palatable, a movie that's more timely. Couldn't even have seen that coming. And the Academy.
I never saw Paul Thomas Anderson making this film. I never saw this film coming from like a major fucking filmmaker. It doesn't make it's such a bold statement about our times that I just did not expect this to be in existence from a major studio.
It has many actors you can nominate. It has techs you can win. It's just not close. Like for director and screenplay picture, and like especially the fact that he's the most overdue filmmaker working right now, and here's his movie to give him all the awards. Like, it's like when The Departed happened for Scorsese.
But it's even more of a slam dunk.
It's an absolute
because
slam
The Departed wasn't necessarily considered Scorsese's best. I mean,
this movie is not necessarily his best
not
either.
necessarily, but
it is considered one of his very best.
Yeah,
And
it
it's
is.
possibly in time going to be looked at as his very best film.
Well,
Totally possible.
There Will Be Blood exists, man.
No.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it's totally possible.
Sure,
And
maybe.
and that's the level. Like, there's just no reason to not have this at number one. I think it's a slam dunk for best director. Like, how could you not give this film best director?
Everything else is just small fry. Like Hamnet and Sentimental Value, that's just small fry this year. Like this was a big event film, and even Sinners, which was also a big event film that like got the whole film community united. Like Ryan Coogler doesn't need Oscars as badly as Paul Thomas Anderson, and people like this movie even better. So like, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm thinking about how critics groups are going to treat this, and I'm like, a little worried that there won't be enough love to go around for films that I would like them to support. Like it was just an accident or no other choice. But I mean, it is what it is. Like every critics group is going to give this best film. Like, okay, maybe that will happen. Like it's honestly such a slam dunk. And I even think that SAG Ensemble is going to go to this and not Sinners. And I think people maybe haven't caught on to the fact that this may win casting and SAG Ensemble and not Sinners.
If this didn't come out, I would honestly still have Sinners at number one. I mean, I hope people look back and say, look, we had two amazing, massive event films, and that Sinners is included in that. And I would love to see Ryan Coogler still win an Oscar for original screenplay this year. You know, maybe that's still possible. But look, I just think this film has toppled everything else, including Sinners.
I mean, what else could it win? I mean, I have it winning editing, and I think that's not hard at all.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's editing.
It's a genre action film, and like I was saying, it's a freaking perfect edit.
Especially winning Best Picture, it's going to win Best Editing. I think this is like as guaranteed as Oppenheimer that was going to win the Oscar. I think it's going to be similar to that.
It's also a category where you look at the other nominees and just nothing really quite feels right to win editing. And I would also say the same about cinematography.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily a slam dunk. If you had something like 1917 or whatever come out this year, sure, maybe that could win. But I look at the other nominees and I just don't think anything makes as much sense.
Yeah.
And this
I
can
think
win
this is gonna win
cinematography, and it would be deserving.
The movie looks stunning. It's not flashy in a way, but at the same time, it kind of is. Maybe what really puts it over the edge for a win is that last scene where you're like rolling over the hills.
Oh, yeah,
because
I think so.
I just feel like that kind of a scene hasn't been put to film before. The like long lenses that are strapped to the front of the car, like giving that effect was like amazing.
It's also just one of those things where I think it's going to be so many people's favorite movie that in categories where you don't really know what to vote for, like you're just going to check it off. Can this win any acting awards? I think certainly. I think Sean Penn may win the Oscar. I would not be so certain that Stellan Skarsgård has this locked up for sentimental value as much as I would love to see him win a first Oscar for that.
Yeah.
It is just not as bold and showy of a performance as Sean Penn's giving here. And sure, Sean Penn has 2 Oscars already. Maybe some people will feel that we want to give Stellan Skarsgård his time, but it's been a while since Sean Penn's won. It feels like a big comeback for him. And we've certainly seen people win 3rd Oscars, 2nd Oscars in the past decade. I just think this makes more sense than anybody else at this point.
Yeah, I also have this at number 1 because it's a little more showy than Stellan Skarsgård, and it feels like the kind of performance that would win. And look, if One Battle After Another is winning Best Picture, I could see it taking an acting prize somewhere. It'd be actually surprising if it didn't. On that note, in supporting actress, I do feel like if this field does not clear up, she could actually win. Teyana Taylor.
I don't think so. I think that her being only in the first 25 minutes, even though she owns those scenes and creates a fully fleshed out character that you remember for the rest of the runtime, I just don't quite think that's going to win. I know that there's not a clear frontrunner here, and I agree that maybe I can squint and see it. But also a lot of people think that Chase Infinity is the one that should be in the conversation instead. She has more screen time. She's a greater presence in the movie. Maybe she will have a Haley Steinfeld True Grit type of moment as a young actress. I think that she could come along for a nomination. I don't know that it'd be over Teyana Taylor because I really see the gears in motion.
I think Teyana Taylor is
Taylor.
absolutely going to get nominated.
I see her campaigning. I see her talking about the character, and I think that's enough. Chase Infinity, I didn't personally feel like I would have to nominate her. I've seen other people say the exact opposite, so who am I to say?
Yeah.
But as a newcomer, it's harder. Teyana Taylor has made an impression on the screen before. Maybe not everyone's seen 1001, but I have Teyana Taylor getting nominated and Chase Infinity in the 10.
I have Teyana Taylor at number 2 behind Ariana Grande right now.
I also think we do have to wonder if DiCaprio can win a second for this. Now, I think he's easily getting nominated, but I came away like I'd be pretty surprised if he won for that. I feel like we've seen him do this kind of comedy sort of similarly in other films, though it's no less fitting or impressive here, his work. But I gotta say, if Timothée Chalamet doesn't step up to the plate for Marty Supreme, and that's not an obvious thing that's happening, I think it's DiCaprio. I don't think it's gonna be Jeremy Allen White. I also want to just briefly say, Benicio del Toro's second supporting actor nomination. Now, I don't quite believe in that, but I don't think it's impossible, because he's got a lot of fans, his character is great. But I think
his character is very supporting, though. Like, it really doesn't call a lot of attention to itself. Like you said, he's the calm, cool person compared to DiCaprio. I'm not sure there's like quite enough there.
I don't think so, but I'm just floating it out there.
Sure.
Score, I think it's winning. I think it's going to beat Sinners.
Yeah.
Johnny Greenwood,
He's
I'd
Oscar
love
list.
to see him win an Oscar, and especially for a PTA film, you know, bringing it back to his introduction into scoring films in the first place. By the way, that's 8 Oscars I have it winning. It's 8. It's the most sweet.
Do you have it winning for sound?
I was thinking about it.
I'm thinking about it because F1 feels like not a lock to win.
I'll tell
It
you
actually
this.
wasn't as impressive as
I
Top Gun.
kicked out F1 from the nominations to fit One Battle in, and I have no clue what's winning. Yes, I did.
No.
Yes, I did. Oh, yes, I did.
No. You
Ha!
have Sinners instead?
I have Sinners, I have Deliver Me From Nowhere, I have Wicked, because you gotta have the music films, and I have Avatar, and I have One Battle.
Okay. I get what you're saying. It's not like, okay.
Rush
I mean,
got snubbed, dude.
I think this would just maybe win, like, in the way that Honora won editing. Like, if nothing
Maybe.
else makes sense, it might just be like, all right, well, I like One Battle
I
after
thought
another.
about that. That's like so many wins.
So, look, let's do nominations and wins. Picture winning, director winning, screenplay winning, actor nominated, supporting actor probably winning, supporting actress maybe winning,
Casting win.
casting win,
Editing win.
cinematography
Score
win.
win.
Score win, sound win, maybe 8 wins, 11 noms.
That's what I have it for.
And if it was just, maybe I get a production design nomination.
Yeah, even the costumes were good, and it's Colleen Atwood. If they want to over-nominate the hell out of it,
It could be 13.
You don't think makeup, right?
No, but like, yeah, I know.
There you have it, folks. Like, I actually don't think that this can go another way at this point. Call me stubborn, but every ingredient is there, and even, like, winners from the past few years support this. Showering a specific filmmaker has been happening, just giving them picture director screenplay, it's your time, there you go. Being an event film.
Being the single most acclaimed film of the year has worked out very well for Best Picture winners as of late.
Being a timely and relevant film. Maybe even
Very,
with a
very
diverse
important.
cast, if you want to say that's important. And being a crowd pleaser.
Being
Like,
able to win an acting prize.
not a cold
win-
movie whatsoever.
Being the front runner for director and screenplay, obviously. It's kind of over.
4.5 Letterboxd, 96 Metacritic. Like, IMDb is looking like it may place on the top 250. Like,
We'll see, though. We'll see if it gets reviewed.
it could get some backlash once the Ben
Yeah.
Shapiro review hits, but we'll have to find out how that goes.
The only thing it doesn't have is also that box office might be a little weak.
Tracking to make slightly more than Killers of the Flower Moon opening weekend. That made 158 million worldwide. This movie, I expect with reviews and buzz like this, will have good legs, below average weekend to weekend drops.
Yeah.
Now let's say
I also think, like Sinners, people will see this again.
Look,
I can't imagine not seeing this film again. I need to see it again.
I'm seeing it for the 3rd time immediately after I stop recording this video. Even if it makes 160 million worldwide, okay, it's not that much above its budget. Oh, it's a big bomb, boo-hoo. It's a lot more than most movies that will be nominated for Best Picture. It's still enough that it was a big deal and a big splash. And look, the studio is going to look at that as a win, okay? Because they get to make so much money off of on-demand sales. People don't even factor that in. Like, a movie that has longevity, not just because it's winning Best Picture, but because it's a film people are going to be talking about for decades to come. Longevity for the studio, it's still a win. I'm sure there'll be a lot of online debates and like people yelling at like when Variety says the movie's a flop and they're like, fuck you, Variety. Like, we just don't need to have that battle. There are other battles to fight, as this film shows. I think we can chill about that. I don't want to hear that like the box office is going to get in the way of this movie winning Best Picture, like, please. And that's a lot of things that we have to say about one battle after another. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing.
What battle are you fighting next?